It's going to happen. One of the things that we can't do is just be like, oh shit, we got to drop everything because these folks are like getting tired or whatever. It's just we can't. We've got other stuff that we've set as a priority. Like I said, we're chipping away at it. Fallen Watch is going to go live in the not too distant future, and then you're going to find a lot of cool bugs and and have a lot of feedback there, so that'll be cool. But I mean, the reality is we're running a beta for a volunteer-based indie MMO, and we have people with like a significant number of people with 500 plus hours in. I mean, even the number of people we have with 250 plus hours in, it's just like, for us, we feel like we're in a better spot than we could have imagined 5 years ago. So you guys, one of the things that I'm going to be doing from now until we go into early access and one of the things that's a big priority, I want to get with Swanee on. One of the things that's a big priority for me personally, before we get into EA, is like a big ass sign that pops up when you go to subscribe. That is a bulleted list of what to expect from early access for M&M, because as much as we are absolutely grateful and feel blessed to have the level of interest that we have in the game from folks, you guys got to realize, just because more people showed up than we thought were going to show up, and just because there are so many people that are so passionate about the game, it doesn't change the nature of what we set out to do here and who we are. This isn't a beta for some big release, right? This isn't okay, thanks, Swanee. Guys, you are, and we get into the technicality of terms on Reddit or here or there, especially with people that are coming in from the outside and they're like, hey man, I'm a customer, I don't need to have any other perspective, I give you money and you give me awesome AAA game. And it's like, well, you're in the wrong place. This is a game that is in development. When we go into early access, the game is still in development. When we go into early access, the game is still being made, maintained, supported by a volunteer team. None of this should change. Happy you're here, but you know, when we tipped over the 20,000 mark on Discord or whatever, we didn't magically become a team that has funding and everybody's working full time. So we want people, you know, like for people that are coming in, it's like, well, that's just not acceptable. Or the people that are hand wringing and they're very concerned, that's like, but you only get one chance to make a first impression. Well, then the game was doomed from its start, right? Like, if that's true, then yeah, and that may wind up being true, but that concern doesn't change the fact that, yeah, people are going to go in and they're going to pay us $15 a month for a game that's still very much in development. There's going to be bugs and missing stuff and stuff that we're refactoring and things that we wish we would have had in by EA but aren't in for EA, and people can go unacceptable and they can never come back again. Sure. But I've seen other games that were in beta for years and years, and then they hit 1.0 or release, and then a bunch of new people came and checked it out. It happened. So we'll see. None of this, you know, when I say stuff like that, I think sometimes people are like, how dare you? They grit it out, and it's just like, dude, I'm not being a smart ass. I'm not trying to be like cocky or rude or whatever. I'm just trying to set expectations. And for, you know, when we tell people like, hey, maybe you're better off coming back in 6 months or a year or 1.0, And then, you know, the rebuttal could be, well, but if you don't have enough people, maybe you won't make it that long. That might be the case as well. But that's just kind of the reality in which we work. There's a lack of content for level 69 players. Can we do something about that? Well, I would just say once you're level 69, you should probably just relax, chill out, listen to music, enjoy the view, take a break, enjoy. Level 69 is that's a very social part of the game. Sev Thread said, yeah, I easily have 500 hours and I'm not past level 40. Had no intention of rushing 60 when there's so many things to test outside of the in-game. You guys, you got to understand, if you stick with us long enough, there'll be more places to go, more things to do. It's a subset of a game. Rook arrived. Thank you for the follow. Does that make sense? Flex Bump Chest said, it's been fun just making new characters when you do the deep dives. Rogue is the chef's kiss. It's so interesting. You say that. It's so interesting. One of the things I love about what we do is, and I'm being honest, is like it's just reading some of the different comments. It's the game is too easy. And then I'll scroll down 2 more. The game is unnecessarily difficult. The game is, I'm just face rolling and no challenge. Other comment is, they're just listening to the sweatiest folks and they've made the game unplayable. Why isn't everyone fishing? Dude, fishing is going to have a big revamp. Oh my goodness. It was supposed to have happened already, but it didn't. But yeah, we appreciate you guys supporting us. Somebody had asked, I can't find it. I'm not going to scroll around too much. Somebody asked about the merch store. The merch store will go live when we're live, basically. Are there any plans for more ways to combat an NPC with a damage shield? That's a good question. And one of the other things we've got to look at is just NPC, the prevalence of NPCs with damage shields. One thing will be to, you know, ideally you're working with other players, and you know, that gives your other classes some time to shine. Yeedy Davidus, rogues are beyond annoying in PvP. There was a discussion going on in Slack about some of the rogue PvP issues. More seriously, how are you planning to take our money when EA drops? Do you have plans, or is that still being processed? Swanee originally came on the team because he is the man with the background in taking people's money online. So yeah, our payment system and stuff should be ready to go. It'll be a monthly subscription. We'll sell you merch. We may add a tip jar if that's not considered too cheesy. That way people can be whales without us having to... Oh, crap. Speaking of O-Face, I gotta do something really quick. Not that one. That was nothing crazy, so if you want to go back and pause or whatever, you're not getting any crazy info. Here. Feel free to do it. I need this for my thumbnail because I had like, not many, but I had like 4 or 5 people. I just used the, nice flashbang, sorry about that. I just used the the Discord image that you posted of that AI Discord image, I just had it up. It was just this still. Yeah, the thumbnail commentary was just like, I'm not sure what to think about the direction of this game anymore. I'm like, I literally just, I hit pause on YouTube and made a thumbnail like I always do, where I'm standing here doing something. And it was on screen. There's no, it's not, it was basically a dick joke. It was just a screen cap of a goblin orgasm face. That is the direction of the game, kind of, right? We've always been this way. Why are you like this? We've always been like this. I don't know what to say. Will that be too bright, or? Okay, I was posing for the thumbnail. That is precisely what an AI image would say. Freaking busted. Can you please put this on the merch store? Well, we're going to have so much shit on the merch store that's just going to be this type of stuff, inside jokes from the stream or whatever, along with some really wonderful illustrations and other stuff. So the merch store is going to be fun. Maybe I'll get with Swanee and see if we can get I want to sit with Goblin and some other folks and get the merch kind of hammered out and the store updated. And I wonder if we can have the merch store up, but without the ability for you to actually purchase anything, so you can preview it. Merch store with bigger fella sizes and t-shirts. It's all print on demand, so there should be plenty of options. Will the merch store open this year? Yeah, it'll go live with early access. Because that's when we need to start taking you for all the money we can. Remember, no box price, just a subscription fee, no in-game microtransactions. So we're you know, if anybody thinks cash grab, it's really not the ideal way to do it. A box of the game will be something that if you guys stick around long enough and we have enough cash, we'll get some boxes made up. And we'll... Yeah. You guys must be excited to finally start making money for your work. Yes. Yes, in that it can start to get some cash to the guys, which is much appreciated, much needed. As as the fluffy poet once said, mo money, mo problems, right? So there will be some, there will be things that come with that will present challenges for us and present challenges for the team, right? Like, you know, there are various scenarios that we have to look at. Say we have money, but we don't have a ton of money, then we've got to work with the team and just sort of manage morale, because some people get paid and some people won't, right? So that's going to be a rough one. But that's always been the nature of what we do, right? That's always been a risk. If we've got a fair amount of money coming in, then there's also the fact that money may not last, right? Most people, you know, that come in and check it, that's not the way to say it. Most games have a, you know, a 30%, even solid ones, you're going to see like a 30% sort of decay of the curve over time. Now, on the other hand, it's hard for us. I became a producer instead of staying a designer, becoming a creative director, because I tend to, it's not that I'm pessimistic, but I'm constantly looking at, all right, what's the worst case scenario and how do we prepare for it? And the reality is that unless we happen to just be a kind of game that more and more people hear about and are like, oh shit, I want to check that out or whatever. And we would love to start small and have our community either stay relatively stable or grow over time. Even if that meant starting smaller. People are like, why aren't you on Steam? Well, Steam, one of the main benefits of being on Steam is reach and discoverability in theory, right? We don't want people to, everybody that could play the game ever, you know, the total addressable market. We don't want everybody that could potentially play the game to play the game in its current state. We want it to be something where, as the game continues to get bigger and improves and gets more stable, yada yada, that more people discover it over time or come back. So, you know, the curve, I don't need to draw it. You guys get it, right? The curve it's either going to start as big as we're ever going to be and decay rapidly, sort of like early New World, where you see, or most big games. I mean, even looking at something like, what was it? Solid showing, but then had a rapid decay. You can see the stuff on Steam charts. So Helldivers 2, huge. And then over the course of like 2 or 3 months, you see like a 90% decline. So that could be us. Or I keep saying it, and people, you can argue if you want or whatever, but if you look at Pantheon's, like the retention rate, they did really well. You know, it's like a 20-30% month over month decline after the first 2 months, if I'm not mistaken. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. And it's just, you know, they're kind of looking for that thing that gets you to come back and, you know, or stabilizes that curve. We could be that. And then the question is, do we keep working on the game when we're at our kind of low point or whatever? And then stabilize and eventually get it to a point where we can kind of do something, get people to come back and check it out. Or we could do kind of like early, if you look at early Eve's numbers or some of the other games, there's some great examples. I think Warframe and other people of, you know, you just kind of come out and you're relatively small and you're relatively stable. You lose people, you gain people, and then over time you see some bumps as new things like new modules come out or whatever, and then it grows over time. I don't know. I mean, so I don't know, man. We'll see. We will know a lot about life this time next year. We are a PC gamer demo disc. You remember, dude? Oh, the old demo discs, even pre PC gamer. After you and Ollie take your 90% cut, we'll see what trickles down to the fellas in the trenches. I hope that's a joke. Ollie and I were just talking about this the other day. Somebody asked earlier, like, if I was the one that invested the most. Ollie's invested the most in the game. Ollie and I have funded it. Ollie is by far invested the most. And neither one of us are looking to, like, take money out of the game before the team gets their due, man. Like, I think tax-wise or legally, we have to take back the money that we've invested. Otherwise, it changes, like, the nature of that investment. That's something that our dear environment artist and lawyer, Balu, or Simon, and our wonderful accountant, Atomic Frog, we've talked to them about. So we'll be required to have the company pay us back the money that we loaned it. That money is, I think, when we go into early access, should be somewhere around like 180,000 or something like that. I have to look at the spreadsheet again. But we're only required to take back like a monthly stipend, so it'll be something like, I think it's something like 5,000 a month or something. So we'll see. It's like we don't have to take much, but we have to take, like, the company has to pay us back. And that's it in terms of what we've discussed taking from the company. We want to make sure that the team eats first. Penny asked a question: do you expect character lottery to continue all the way to early access, or will there be a character lockdown period beforehand? If there is a cutoff, what's the plan for people still waiting in the lottery? Will everyone receive a beta ticket before the testing ends? I think it's very likely that there will be people who are in the lottery pool who will not get a ticket before early access. And it is also likely that we just kind of, we don't know, but we'll probably maybe turn stuff off before sometime before early access, whether that be a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And just kind of like lock stuff down. Hopefully that makes sense. Will there be an overarching enemy story? We all end up working towards a common goal, like some big bad. There are a lot of big bads. And yes, some of that will be exposed. And then there are big bads and stories that are going on that may never actually be expressed in game. We'll see if this game lasts for 6 months versus 20 years. It makes all the difference on how much of the backstory you'll see. Big bad is just your perspective, man. That is the case with some big bads, but there are some very, very big, very, very bads that everybody worries about. So the deep is coming next week, right? What is next week, month, time-wise? Probably not. But we want to get it out as soon as possible. Where do you get your environment assets from in Skybox? Do you make them yourselves? We made everything ourselves except the water is it's a shader. It's an asset that you can then tweak and add in your own materials to and stuff like that. I might not be explaining it right. And then it's a ton of knobs and dials and stuff that allow us to make it look and do what we want. It's kind of similar. It's called Crest. And we've kind of been back and forth between Crest and Unity 6's new water. So it's essentially a tool that we use. The Skybox itself should be very familiar to you for, because you live on Earth, and but there's also a lore rationale for that as well. Is live M&M run by somebody from the team? No, it is run by somebody from the community, but we think it's cool, and we're aware of it. The fact that your water goes crazy when it's stormy is awesome. There's a lot of stuff that we want to do on that front over time. Daytime is mostly procedural, Ollie said. I use some default Unity assets with some custom assets and some parameters. It'd be amazing to have such an iconic character in Eminem like Furion V. Furion Levi. Yeah, I want to get more characters front and center. Again, that falls into the guilty pleasure part of things. Continuing to write up these guys and Dairy Time said, good games build word of mouth massively. Just look at current releases like Schedule 1 or Slate Aspire. Just make a game that you and others want to play. It'll work out. I mean, it'll work out or it won't work out, but that really is the only way for us to do it. We can't chase some trend or something. We're just going to make the game we want to make. And we really do enjoy playing it. Old Greg, thanks for the follow. Haven't heard that name in a while. Cultist Curry, thank you for the follow as well. Mumble said, I love how gathering and crafting felt New World. What did you like about it? There's some things that we want to change on the gathering front, like those wood piles will at some point soon become little trees. And then when you whack them with your axe, wood chips will fly off and leaves will probably fall down. Icaros TTV said, sorry if this has been asked, but do we know when the next deep dive will be released? Before the end of the month, we'll have some more deep dives for you. If I'm not mistaken. I know they're being worked on. The sound design of New World is one of the things I've always loved. The way that the pickaxe hit the rock sounds like a crack that echoed through the area. The audio guys, Rondo and Robert, are they're aggressive on continuing to try to make things even better. So anytime you got feedback in that area, those guys are on top of it. Speaking of which, and now, shit, I feel bad. I was rambling through something else and I saw Robert popped in from his hotel room. He's on tour right now. I can't even scroll up that far. And I meant to reply and I didn't say anything. So I don't know if Robert's still out there, but anyway, always nothing but good things to say about the audio. And then I scrolled up until the end of my scroll and saw a comment from Pennymew who said, are you aware of the current availability and distribution of in-game herbs in existing zones isn't particularly great? As a single person gathering one of these areas POIs in the lower pop PvP server, sometimes I find as few as 1 to 2 nodes per hour. Excuse me, for certain herbs like Flamestalk. Is this low rate of acquisition intended? I am not sure. Tag Rift on Discord and see if you can get an answer, and if not, then we'll try to find out for you. Because while there may be some things that are meant to be rare, I don't know that all of it's supposed to be. Classic EverQuest said, one of the things about Stormhammer type server would be good for the hardcore whales of the game to give more for not much in return. We'd love to find a way for you to do that without a special server. Like I said, maybe we'll just put a tip jar. Buy a lot of merch. We want to get GM events on all the servers. We don't want to, you know, a special server. We just want to make servers special. One of the things Santa Pask said, one of the things I really like about the game is when the mud feature actually works intuitively. We're looking at some of that both in the starter quests and in general. Loki has been hitting some of that up, and we've got some feature tweak requests for Ollie since he's knocking out different random requests pretty quickly. One of those is probably looking at how some of the mud actions work with regards to whether or not you need to hold an item on the cursor or whether or not the syntax is intuitive. So we need to work through some of that logic and see if we can just make it easier to use. Do you guys feel like you'll complete all of the class reworks before EA? I'm assuming class reworks. I don't know. We'll see where we get. It's very possible that we don't get to all of the classes before EA, but if that's the case, then what you see in terms of, well, if that winds up being the case, what I'll try to do is get with the guys and see if we can like forewarn you and front load the degree of change in advance, so that you're able to make certain decisions as to whether or not to start a class. But the hope is that you're not going to see anything like ultra crazy and dramatic. So it's not like it'll be a 180 for you or whatever. The reason why I say I'm not sure on some of this stuff is I'm not sure and I don't want to bullshit you. Frostbear TV said, not sure if you take class questions, but any thoughts on making it viable for clerics to auto attack instead of sitting while medding? We've been playing around with some different things on that front because I've played a cleric in the past and I enjoy playing a cleric, and I like this idea of there being like a, you know, a nice Yalp type ability or state or whatever stance that I can be in that allows me to essentially whack on some stuff while not feeling guilty that I wasn't sitting to med, right? So even some updated write-ups on unfinished classes would help if that time comes. I agree. That is true, Pear. If a class isn't reworked by EA, wouldn't it be better to deactivate it? Something like that? Nah, I think I wouldn't want to go that route. I would rather just see how much of a roadmap and how much clarification we can provide in advance. The problem with mud actions currently, as of last playtest, is they still feel like an 80s DRM test where you have to input the correct password from the instruction booklet. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at, is how to get a better range there. You know, and some of that is honestly, it's just us doing a little bit more like, you know, putting a little more elbow grease in and adding in more possible triggers. It's just putting a little bit more work into it. Then over time, we want to see if we can get the system to be able to understand intent a bit better. We've discussed different takes on that in the past in terms of there being essentially pools of keywords that assist, but a lot of it winds up just it winds up coming down to maybe changing how they work with regards to whether or not you have to be holding an item, whether or not you're saying just throw, you know, can it just be throw the hook versus hold the hook and then say throw at blah, 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 right? Like, so there's just, I mean, that's very much the first implementation of it. And so we haven't gone back and kind of smoothed out some of the UX on that. So we're going to play with that. And then we're also, there's some shit that we'll put in as well, where it's like, where you, especially as like a starter, when you go into an area, in the starter quest, when you go into an area and you're meant to do this thing, we can push that information to you as well, where it's like, oh, this looks like the thing, this looks like the tower that Stumpy drew for you, right? So we'll work on smoothing some stuff out. Not a professional programmer, but it sounds very difficult to add a range of words that triggers an action. Oh no, it's just data entry on that. Here, I can show you. Zone mud actions. I don't want to spoil anything, so let me look and see. Right, so like right here in this one, we can add more and more of these phrases in, so that it kind of hits the range of likely options that you'd be picking. So then the question became, do we have a system that kind of understands, you know, certain range of synonyms and stuff like that? And I've read some of the online critique about, well, if you need this system that does this, why don't you just click the shit, right? Like just have an icon pop up and then you push the button and it does it automatically. It's like, why do I have to type this bullshit in? Okay, I don't know, but yeah, because for some of us it's kind of fun to to be honest, I haven't really had many problems using mud. I just almost always know what to write. I mean, yeah, different people, I think, read the text and sort of get it better. Some people are never going to be into it. Like some people just always rather just click the link and have it, you know, click, and then have the objective show up in a mini, like little objective list, and then reference the quest journal when needed. Or it's different people are into different things. So Mobile said walking up to an NPC and typing a string of one word keywords always feels strange. I mean, we could require you to type in the whole phrase, but that makes it even harder. Thing is, you don't really have to do mud interaction much. Yeah, that's also true. Telios, Frostbear TV, thank you for the follows. First couple of playtests in Night Harbor, I thought I'd never get it down, but since I've done a couple of the class quests in Felon Draw, I've gotten it down quite well. Love it. The Night Harbor quests are older, and since I did, I think, like 12 of the 18 or something like that, I can say without feeling too bad that some of them aren't the smoothest, so we're looking at those right now. One of the frustrations I had during beta was when quests weren't fully implemented. There's no way to know the state of the quest. There's going to be part of that will probably always be the case, but early on in the stream, you may not have been here for it. I mentioned that Ollie just added a bit of functionality that will at least help you in the sense that if you're saying the wrong thing, the NPC will respond. Right, so it's like, come again, shrug at you and stuff like that. I haven't gotten those in yet, and it was weird. This is how work works for me. So I wake up this morning, and I'm like, my eyes are barely open. I'm stumbling to the bathroom. I'm taking a leak, and as I'm taking a leak, the thing that comes to mind is, because I was thinking about, oh man, if I get time today, I can't wait to like start messing with this feature that Ollie added to basically give you those default responses. And the first thing that came to mind was, oh shit, all of the responses are going to go into the quest journal. So we've got to basically, Ollie added a new field on the NPC that is called like bad tech. No, let me see. What is it called again? It is called, it's down here, scrolling. Bad prompt say is the field. So we can basically now link that field to the quest random. The quest random functionality that was just added is great. It's being used by Akiris a bunch in Fallen Watch because it allows us to trigger random events and all sorts of stuff. And anyways, now, and at least one bartender is using it, where if you tip him, he'll have random responses for you, just as a as like a prototype. But now we can have the, what was it called? Bad chat, bad. So scatterbrained. Scrolling. Bad prompt say. So if you use bad prompt say, then that should be able to trigger like just random responses. And since it's on each NPC, Zukin just said Gardamir says, "What are you, some kind of idiot or something?" We can actually do that. So Gardamir could be have his own like list of responses, and he could say that. So he'll be different. But I want to get in there and play with it tomorrow and have it be trigger some animations like shrug and blah blah blah. But it will be something that we have to make sure isn't spamming your quest journal, unless you're ultra pissed. Ultra pissed that I want my journal full of Gardamir parading me. Yeah. It'd be nice if unfinished quests had some type of indication. I think that's probably doable, but it's going to be dependent on whether or not you are saying certain things to them. Definitely some room for improvement in quest journal when it comes to readability. Yep. Mini quests are also repeatable. That may change by EA. We may be making some of the repeatable quests non-repeatable. We kind of like abstained from adding that functionality for a long time, but that'll be in by EA. You have an AI camera in your work truck. You curse that many times a day. It feels like using /mode command IRL. What kind of work do you do? He's in the NSA. Underdog's ETA is, I mean, we were trying to hit by end of the month, but we'll see. Be checking with the team this week to see how things are going. Matsurugi said, no, I drive overnight for UPS. They just constantly bitch at you for taking a drink of water, etc. Your truck does? As before, I know it's not a high priority, but card games, do you have ideas for what kind of game you would want to make? I personally do, for sure. But we're... one of the things that's low on the priority list, but is part of a list that we've given a new programming candidate who is doing good so far, is getting parlor games in for the tavern games. So yeah, dice games, some simple card games to start with. It's funny. I was just talking about a board game / CCG game within M&M that I've been wanting to make forever, because the Rondo, who does audio with Robert, is also somebody that's into world building and was actually working on a chess-like mini game prior to joining the team, and was posting it in our community, if you remember. So I think I've mentioned it before, so it's not like I'm, spoiling anything or whatever. I've been wanting a chess-like game that is modified with cards and potentially pieces, that is collectible / creatable in game through like some different trade skills and just sort of collecting. So we were just talking about that the other day. I get that some people think that like alt tabbing to check out maps is a bad thing, but it's like the reality is you're going to alt tab for other stuff as well, right? And I've just got to say, like Ali and I have talked about it forever. We love wikis for games. It's just a cool thing to. I just think it's the coolest thing in the world to look and see that there's a wiki and that stuff is gathering there, and seeing different people's takes on stuff, looking at like Chaz Solo's maps versus Maggot's maps versus, right? Like, without a doubt, there's stuff that we could do in game, and we've talked about putting maps in game in some form at some point. But the fact that people are going to out of game resources, it's odd because I think that gets overstated when it comes to certain topics, and then people forget about all of the other places where it's going to happen, right? So like people will mention the map thing specifically. Having to go to an external resource for the maps is like a bad move. It's bad design. But I wonder how many of those people are still going to go to an external resource to look up quests if they can't find them, or if they're just curious, they're going to look up items to try to like figure out, well, what's a good item or for my level range, which often leads back to quests. They're going to go, look up abilities. Oh, what does this ability do? As opposed to like going back to the merchant and like right clicking on the ability and then memorize it, right? There are things that you're going to go. One of the things that I always thought was really super cool and interesting and beautiful and unique at the time to like working on EverQuest, it was just the fact that there were so many external resources, and it was cool because we'd have fanfares and we'd actually hang out and drink beers and hang out with Ala from Alakazam and Ilya. I think it was Ilya, who also worked at like Alakazam, or Greg from Caster's Realm. It was just cool that each website had its own kind of take, and it had some things that it was good at versus others, and like reading people's comments about the quests, or, oh, I just discovered this shit, or, oh, what about this kid? I just found this new NPC. All of that stuff is like, man, I just think it's kind of cool. Even if there's rudimentary mapping game, how many people would look up cheater maps with all the name spawns and stuff? Yeah, you would still go. Lore about the lore is also cool. One of the things that it does happen, and I know folks don't believe me, but just the fact that it isn't in game does lead a lot more people to thinking about, like, and I know it's not 100% the case, but it shifts people into thinking about landmarks and learning the map and stuff like that. So. Swanee said, if the card game does well, then we get to race our yachts. Probably not. Monsters the Gathering or Memories 40K. Yeah, John, I remember the old Battle Chess game. Chess Balatro would be fun. Balatro was the game that Rondo and I, Rondo had brought up Balatro when we were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, shit. We were all just talking about it, what, a year or two ago. How come the bread rolls look like tortillas, killing your immersion? JK. We've just, over time, we will add more and more icons. So, not all your bread rolls will look like tortillas. Again, you can have a map system where you still need to learn the landmarks and are not just give all the info without exploring. But I'll stop talking about since it seems the topics of maps and games are a real touchy one. It's not touchy at all. No, it's not touchy. It's also, it's not new, right? Like we've been having this conversation for I guess probably more so 3 or 4 years out of the 6 that we're heading towards. It's not touchy. Like I said, we've talked about it would be fun to be able to have like certain maps that you can find in game and stuff, because wouldn't it be cool to have like a goblin style map, not goblin our team member, but like a random ass goblin drew a sketchy map that's kind of crudely drawn and there's an X, and then the thing with maps that we can do, and so when we eventually put like some sort of map in game, then it will be an item. And so then we can check to see if you have that item in your possession. So like that whole treasure map idea is like, well, then you are actually holding a thing that acts as a trigger or acts as a key for the ability for us to trigger some sort of a thing there, right? So it's not that we're against it, and if we put them in at some point, people will be like, oh, they finally caved to the map pressure, and it's like, no, we just a spoiler, we've actually worked with some people. I don't know. I don't want to dox anybody, I guess. We've worked with some people who have done good maps for our game to see if we could hit some different map styles for what we would want an in-game map to look like. So we've gone as far as prototyping what an in-game map would look like to see whether or not we felt like it would work. But then we've got to produce all of those maps. We have to produce the different versions of the maps. We have to get things in the way we, right? Like, so it's just, it hasn't been a high priority for us. So later on, if we put maps in the game, then people will be, you know, blasting us for finally caving. But please timestamp 1 hour 54 minutes in yet another stream where I've mentioned like it's never not been on the table. We've never been like no mapping game ever. Like we just haven't. It's just that when it comes up in Discord again and again, there's only so many times we can say it and say until we have the system set up that we want to have in, we're fine with having nothing. Yeah, it won't have GPS. Right. It's just, it is a thing that pops up and it's like, you have an item and it pops up and then it can be a really nicely drawn map. It can be a crudely drawn map. Cartography is something that is a skill, and we've talked about maybe it's linked to that. So we've got like just a massive list of stuff to do to make an MMO. And there's certain things that we don't want to do if we can't do it right. Same thing with chat bubbles. Chat bubbles have come up over the years, especially as we got more and more WoW players who have come in, and we've prototyped chat bubbles. It was a secret project at one point. Just went with, I didn't even tell the team. I was like, hey, Goblin, let's prototype some chat bubbles and see if we can make something that looks cool. And then use that as a conversation to be like, well, how should they actually function? And how do we make them not look crappy? That response now is a very big difference than we like wikis and maps in them, and you're going to use wikis anyway for other things. They're not mutually exclusive, Mumbles. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see them as being mutually exclusive. What I'm saying is, we'll put both statements together. We like wikis. People are going to be using wikis anyway. So in the meantime, until we have an in-game system that we like well enough, we have zero problem with people using wikis. And if anything, we like wikis and think they're cool. You know what I mean? Mumble said, love the game though, just giving feedback. Yeah. Like I said, definitely not a touchy subject. No offense taken on my end. If I ever sound that way, it's just because it's my face. It's weird. My dad spent most of my life, until he passed. My dad was always like, my mom would be like, Matthew, quit being so grouchy. And my dad's like, it's just my voice. And I feel that way a lot of times. I'm like, it's just how I talk. I don't. Yeah, so like something like chat bubbles, if they went in, they would be optional. They would not be on by default because, again, honestly, my view is like, the more this center space doesn't have shit on it, better. Old Draenor said, name gave it away. Chat bubbles would be insane. WoW player. Yeah. And you know, a number of people on the team are very pro chat bubbles, and that's so there's certain things that you know, we've talked about, and I've said, oh man, I don't like them, or man, I never want, you know, that or whatever, but I'm just talking, and then we kind of prototype shit and see, can we do it in a way that looks good? I remember I mentioned in a video back in April 24 that the cartography system was mentioned and would be cool. Even mentioned trolley goblin maps. It's always been there. Chinny said, yeah. I mean, it's been a common thread. One of the cool things about having like 1,000 VODs posted is I don't know how you ever find this information. Maybe AI will help, but it's there.